Hello, my name is Christian Lopez, and this is my final term project focusing on the FMS screening movements and my exercise program. So my client is going to be my older brother, Alex. He is 23 years old, and he had told me that he doesn't really have a sleeping pattern, but he mainly never gets 8 hours of sleep. So he said to just put him down as like a range of 5 to 6 hours a day, and he mainly sleeps on his side. I asked him if he tends to like flip over at all, yeah, and he said yes. Completely avoiding his back when sleeping. He works utility, standing as a dishwasher and moving for about 32 to 40 hours a week. And his exercise consists of rock climbing, typically 2 to 4 times a week. And his history with sports would be that he wrestled folk style in high school, which is where he mainly had a lot of stress on his body throughout the years. And then his clinical history, he does have bilateral shoulder hyperextension injuries, which had happened about 5 years ago. Which, that being said, he did have a slight rotator cuff tears in both of his shoulders during wrestling. And he did continue to exercise with the compensations such as wraps, athletic tape, etc. And then he does state to have minor lower back pains due to lifting heavy equipment. Since he does DJing, he tends to lift a lot of like heavy speakers and stuff like that. Alrighty, so with his deep squat, you could see that he does have an excessive forward trunk lean throughout the squat as he's ascending, and his heels do typically rise off the ground, suggesting his limited ankle dorsiflexion. As you could see right here, he was unable to achieve like the adequate amount of squat depth within the femurs like remaining horizontal, and the dowel did also fall forward a lot of the time as he's going down right here. And the dowel also typically is not aligned over the feet, indicating that he is compensating for the movement. And during this going downwards in the motion, he demonstrates like a loss of his balance as he is coming up, which may reflect like a decrease in his core stability and his postural control. And then going to his side profile, you could definitely see how like he's not able to achieve that squat depth right there. And yeah, the dowel did move a lot over, and then he did try it again the second time, and he did not perform so well after that. So now that we have the heels elevated, his squat mechanics did improve, and he was now able to squat below parallel with his femurs passing the horizontal, as you could see right here from the side profile. He did achieve that parallel with his tibia and his spinal. And then his femurs did pass below the horizontal, maintaining that appropriate knee alignment over the foot. However, he did still have that excessive forward trunk lean, as you could see right there. He's still presenting that throughout the movement, suggesting that although he did have some ankle mobility, majoring like the limiting factor, he did have an additional deficit of the hurdle step. He did demonstrate a lateral hip shift towards the stance leg as he begins the hurdle step. And as the stepping leg clears the hurdle, the front foot internally rotates, causing the toes to then point inward rather than remaining in a neutral position. Both of his knees did exhibit flexion throughout the movement rather than maintaining stability. And he also just leans his trunk forward towards the opposite side of the stepping leg, indicating a compensatory weight shift to maintain balance. As he's returning to the starting position, the same compensatory movement patterns remain present, including the lateral trunk lean, hip shifting, and inward rotating of the stepping foot, suggesting a decreased single leg stability and neuromuscular control. With that being said, based on the FMS criteria, I would assign this movement a score of a 2, since he did successfully complete the hurdle step, but demonstrating several like compensatory movement patterns, including lateral hip shifting, inward rotation of the stepping foot, bilateral knee flexion, suggesting like the deficits in his single leg balance, and within his hip stability, which all like do reduce the movement efficiency during the hurdle step. Alrighty, so during his inline lunge, he was able to perform the movement, but does demonstrate several compensatory patterns. Throughout the descent, he does exhibit postural sway, indicating his decreased balance and stability. The leading knee moves laterally from his intended alignment over the foot, suggesting that he does have reduced lower extremity control. Although the dowel does still remain like relatively aligned with his spine, he did demonstrate difficulty maintaining a stable and controlled posture throughout the movement. During his ascent, he did continue to demonstrate instability with noticeable body sway before returning to the start position, such as how you could see it right there. Yeah, mainly indicating like the deficits in his dynamic balance, as he's swaying back and forth with his lumbopelvic control. And then yeah, so based off of this, I would score it also a 2, since he did successfully complete the inline lunge, but did demonstrate postural sway, lateral deviation of the leading knee, and he did have a decreased stability throughout the movement. With these compensations, he did show like his impairments in the dynamic balance, along within his hip stability and his lumbopelvic control. Assessment, I would rate him a 1. Although he was able to perform the movement on both sides, the fists were separated by greater than 1.5 lengths. As you could see on his first one, he did have about like 1.5, but then his second one, he did go past that to roughly around like 2 hands lengths. Which yeah, so this would suggest that he did have reduced bilateral shoulder mobility, with a greater restriction on his left side. Alrighty, and then with his scapular stability, he was able to perform it perfectly on both sides without any pain at all, which does indicate that he did pass this test and that he did not have any limiting factors within this field right here. The frontal view, you can see a significant compensation during the active straight leg raise. As the testing leg is raised, the contralateral leg lifts noticeably off the ground, indicating an inability to remain or to maintain the pelvic and lower extremity stability. The movement is also initiated with momentum, as you can see there, rather than being performed in a slow and controlled manner. And yeah. And then from the sagittal view, you can see that he was unable to raise his testing leg to the required height, as the ankle does not reach the dowel reference marker. The testing leg also demonstrates slight knee flexion, reducing the quality of the movement, and these compensations do suggest limiting active hip flexion while maintaining stability of the pelvis and contralateral limb. And based off of this, I would score him a 1, since he was unable to achieve that required leg height and demonstrated multiple compensatory factors, including like significant lifting of the contralateral leg, his slight knee flexion in the testing leg, and the use of momentum. And yeah, looking at this, he would have deficits in his hamstring stability and flexibility, along with his hip mobility and the lumbopelvic stability. All right, and with his trunk stability push-up with the thumbs aligned with the forehead level, during the movement, he did demonstrate good trunk stability by maintaining a relative neutral body position throughout the push-up, and he was able to perform the movement without visible like difficulty or loss of alignment. After completing the push-up, he did make like minor adjustments with his feet on some of the reps, but this didn't really occur like after the movement was completed, and doesn't really appear to affect like the quality of the push-up itself. Based off of this, I would score him a 3, And he successfully completed the push-up from like the standard male hand position, while maintaining the trunk stability and a proper body alignment throughout the movement. Alright, and then with his spinal extension clearing, he did pass without having any pain at all. He was able to perform the movement very efficiently, and yeah, did not require any compensation. Alright, so with his rotary stability assessment, he was unable to complete the ipsilateral movement due to a loss of balance. After regressing the movement to the contralateral pattern, he did demonstrate improved control by maintaining balance throughout the movement. He did successfully bring the elbow to the knee together while maintaining his trunk stability during the extension phase. Both the arm and the leg remain fully extended with good alignment, demonstrating an adequate rotary stability in the regress movement pattern. I would rate him a 2 since he was unable to complete the ipsilateral rotary stability pattern due to a loss of balance. However, he was successfully performing the contralateral pattern with proper control, maintaining a straight arm and the leg during his extension and bringing his elbow and knee together without much compensating. All right, and then with his spinal flexion clearing, also did clear and pass without any type of pain at all when he was performing the movement. So yeah, he would get a passing hunt for this one. Alrighty, so with that, I would score him a 13 out of 21. And I would definitely say the primary movement limitations were observed in his shoulder mobility and the active straight leg raise, very much indicating that his restrictions in his shoulder mobility, his hamstring flexibility, and his lumbopelvic stability very much like took a toll on like the exercises and how he performed them. And the compensations very much were like noted during the deep squat, his hurdle set, and his inline lunge, showing like his deficits in his ankle dorsiflexion, along with his like hip stability and his balance. And along with his trunk stability was also like shown as a relative strength, as he didn't successfully complete the push-up with proper form. And so overall, my brother did demonstrate several movement limitations during the FMS. His biggest deficits were his limited ankle mobility, which did contribute for his heel to lift off of the floor, and for his forward trunk lean during the deep squat, and limited shoulder mobility, which did affect his shoulder mobility screening. And he also did show reduced hamstring flexibility during the active straight leg raise, along with the decreased balance and stability during the hurdle step and inline lunge. These movement limitations were very much led to several compensatory factors throughout the assessment, which is why the corrective exercise program focused on improving mobility, stability, and overall movement quality will be put into effect. Alright, and so the main target issue here will be that based off his results, the main focus will be improving his ankle and shoulder mobility, while also increasing his overall stability and his movement quality. I selected some mobility exercises, balance and stability exercises, and some movement restraining. And when he experiences pain or is unable to perform certain exercises correctly, I do regress the movements down to allow him to continue improving in a safe and pain-free way. Alrighty, for his program, the 2 warm-ups for both days were going to be leg swings and arm circles. And then for the first day was going to be knee to wall ankle mobilization, assisted deep squat holds, PVC pass-throughs, and wall slides. And these exercises were selected to improve the mobility and stability deficits identified during the FMS. And it is also focused on correcting his movement limitations. And then day 2 is going to be seated ankle dorsiflexion, box squats, wall slides, and wall angels. And I did have to put in some regressed certain exercises based on pain to ensure that he could continue improving safely. Alrighty, so for his warm-up, I did have him do some arm circles, just doing 10 forward and 10 backward, preparing the shoulders for his mobility work, since I did want him to improve on that. So yes, he is just doing the 10 forward, 10 back to very much loosen those shoulder blades.
What do you mean?
And then yeah, there's just a side profile right there. And then we're gonna get into his leg swings, going front to back. Just 10 on each leg, just improving his dynamic hip mobility before squatting. So he is doing those 10 forward, 10 backward on each side. As you can see right there, he does switch. And then he then proceeds to do it to side, again, really opening up those hips, loosening up those muscles right there. Alrighty, so then the first exercise I was gonna have him do was the knee to wall ankle mobilization. Just 2 sets for 10 reps per leg. Sorry. And the main purpose of this was just to increase his ankle dorsiflexion to reduce heel lifting within the deep squat. However, he did say that he experienced some knee pain as he was doing this. So
it's like just this pain.
we would show some of that regression. Alright, so next up I did have him do some assisted deep squat holds. He did tell me that he was experiencing some pain within his ankles and like on the top of his foot, which did indicate that he did have that limited dorsiflexion stability and mobility. But yeah, so he could not perform the proper squat without being in quite a bit of pain while doing it. Alrighty, so the next exercise I was having him do was the PVC shoulder pastures, and he was not able to perform this since he did say that he experienced a little bit of pain while going up and back, and he was not able to get that PVC past his behind, indicating that he did very much have that limited shoulder stability and mobility. Alrighty, so his next test was going to be the wall slides, which again he was not able to perform this due to his limited shoulder mobility. Again, he said that he did experience like a little bit of pain while doing this, and he was not able to bring those elbows off of the wall. And so since he did report knee discomfort during the knee to wall ankle mobilization, to reduce the joint stress while still addressing limited ankle dorsiflexion, the exercise was then regressed to a long sitting calf stretch and seated ankle dorsiflexion exercise. These regressions did target the ankle mobility with less comprehensive force on the knee before progressing back to those weight-bearing mobilization. So then with using the box squat now, it was used to regress the assisted deep squat since he did report some ankle pain during the squat. And by squatting to a bench or like a weight bench as we do right here, the range of motion was then reduced, requiring less ankle dorsiflexion while still reinforcing proper squat mechanics, allowing the participant to practice keeping the knees aligned with the feet and maintaining an upright torso without provoking pain. And then since he was not able to complete the PVC pass-through due to his limited shoulder mobility, some wall slides were used as a progression because they allowed his shoulders to move through a smaller, more controlled range of motion, while the wall provided a lot of feedback to encourage his proper posture and his scapular movement. And then this would improve his shoulder mobility and his thoracic extension without forcing the shoulders into a painful or restricting position. And then for his last one is just going to be an additional wall slide or the scapular wall exercise. And then, yeah, so it's just another variation. It could be called like the wall angel. And yeah, so this one is mainly going to improve his scapular stability and his thoracic mobility while mobilizing stress on the shoulder joint. As you could see right there, as he's coming up and down, this regression helps him develop better movement control and posture before progressing to the more demanding overhead mobility exercises. Alrighty, so moving forward from this, I would have my brother continue the corrective exercise program for about 4 to 6 weeks to allow him for enough time for improvements in his mobility and stability. And then after that, I would just perform like another functional movement screening to compare his results and evaluate his progress over time. And if his movement quality did improve, I would gradually progress the exercises by introducing just more functional and strength and stability training, while also continuing to adjust like his ankle and his shoulder mobility. And yeah, just like overall, the goal for him would just to be reducing his compensatory movement patterns, and then to also just improve his movement efficiency and just lowering the risk of like future injuries that he may have. And yeah, that is my project.